Right. My first guest on Enterprise this morning is the chief exec and co-founder of Squidcard. Now, what is Squidcard? Well, I've got a full description here, but why not go directly and find out from the man himself? Good morning and welcome to Adam Smith. Adam, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning. Good to have you on, Adam. Right. I tell you what, I was in London back in October, November time, and it was the first time I'd been there for a few years, and I used, for the first time, the Oyster card.
Yeah,
and I was using, well, yeah, and thank you. And it's funny, as I was using the Oyster card, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what else you could use this for. But that's exactly what Peter Matthews and yourself came up with, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that was pretty much exactly how it all started, actually, which is, I was thinking this morning, back in 2005, Oyster, which is the London Transport contactless smart card, launched itself, I think about 2003, and grew to be very successful, except that you can only, and still can only, use it to make a transport journey on London Underground and buses. Back in 2005, the people responsible for Oyster said, wouldn't it be good if our customers could also buy a coffee or a newspaper? And for all sorts of very, very complicated technical reasons, whilst Oyster's great for running a transport system, it's just not practical for reasons of cost, mainly, to enable you to buy a coffee. So we looked back in 2005-06 at how you might be able to build a system that would look and feel like Oyster, and indeed even be compatible with it, but enable you to go and buy a low-priced item, typically below £10 or what's that, €12 for your listeners, I guess. And so we had a look around at all the various internet technologies and realized that there was a very significant gap in the market, which was very unlikely to be fulfilled by the banks, for the simple reason that banks have got very long-established legacy systems now, which all work fine. If you've got a credit card and debit card, all those systems work well, but they are expensive. We felt that there was a way to maybe build a new type of payment system which would be much cheaper for everybody involved, whether the consumer or the merchant. And that's how Squid was born.
Well, you see, what I like about it in particular when I was reading up on it, you have hit that gap in the market, because there's nothing more frustrating for me personally. Two things that go on sometimes when you're in a store. When somebody is making a small payment and they pull out a debit card or a credit card for just a 2 or 3 quid. When that happens in front of me, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, you don't get the cash. But also the other thing that happens invariably is you're making a small purchase and it's like 70 odd pence, and you'll have 60 odd pence in change, and you have to then crack open a tenner or a 20, and before you know it, that tenner has completely disappeared. You know, so carrying around a little card which can just make all those smaller purchases sounds just a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and it is, and it has always been a fantastic idea, and there are other people who have had similar ideas. Of course, the delivery of it is somewhat more complicated. These things always are, and we've been on quite a journey of 7 odd years, I guess, in trying to build it. First of all, you've got to have a technology system that will enable you to do it, and that required quite a big investment. So we had to, first of all, having developed the idea, we had to then get some funding to raise it, raise the money, and then be able to build the system. The other thing is, because this comes under the interest of central banks, you also have to have some form of regulatory approval. And across Europe, the various regulators have sort of plugged together and formed something called e-money regulation, which was quite an inspired bit of thinking, actually, which said we want to see more electronic transaction capability in all markets, and recognise that those innovations which are required won't necessarily come from banks. And so e-money regulation was created to allow organisations such as ourselves to build systems, act responsibly, and act sort of like a bank in that we can hold your money for you, but not actually behave fully like a bank in terms of we don't give a credit or anything like that. And actually, given the sort of the whole debt-fueled problem which affects all of economies at the moment, having a electronic payment system which is based only on the amount of money that you have made available to it is probably quite a good thing to have these days, even if it is only just helping you with the smaller value payments.
Okay, so, I mean, I talked specifically about the smaller value payments, but there are other things that you can use it for, aren't there?
Yeah, so this has been a very interesting sort of journey of innovation for us. We built a platform, and because we were starting from scratch, we said, well, you know, what sort of payments might people need to make? And not only have we built a system where you put your own money in, but we built a system where other people can put money in it for you, which may not sound that innovative. But we've had some very interesting success out in Kenya, actually, over the last 6 months or so, where we've been responding to the needs of a particular aid agency who has been very keen to provide humanitarian relief into a remote part of Kenya called Marsabit, which is northern Kenya, drought-affected area, and didn't really have the infrastructure itself to deliver food packages. So it created arrangements with local merchants, and merchant is a inverted commas. This would be a guy on a flatbed truck distributing aid packages, and it needed obviously to then be able to pay those merchants. So we stepped in, and we've been issuing smart cards to entitled individuals up in Marsabit, and they every couple of weeks they get a distribution of electronic value from the aid agency. And then the truck comes to visit them, and they pay for their aid packages. And the system works brilliantly well because no real cash has to be distributed, and that means that losses, cash going into the wrong place, no longer becomes a problem. And everybody's getting their aid benefit on time. Merchants are getting paid at the end of each transaction. So we're beginning to think that this could be quite an innovative solution for the aid industry, if that's a correct expression.
Very much. I like the idea that, you know, it gives peace of mind that the money's going to the right place. Yeah,
and we think that's very important. That all stems out of a little known. I was in Kenya, this time last year, I guess, and the British government had quite an interesting problem, which was not very well aired, but it had made a reasonably large amount of money available to the education program in Kenya, and that money had disappeared. And we thought, well, there was no reason for that money to disappear if instead of giving a bulk sum, the money had been meted out through simple electronic payments right down to individual locations using a system such as ours. And so we've been on the trail to try to get the aid agencies and indeed the government agencies to really look at systems like this. And we'll have to see how that goes over the next year or so.
Yeah, okay. Now, can you buy a card online?
We actually make the cards available free.
Right.
And the answer to that is yes, you can go online to squidcard.com, thanks for the opportunity to plug, and you can get a smart card. I think, importantly, we're not at the stage yet where we've got widespread availability where you can actually use that smart card, so it takes time to build up the network.
Sure.
We've been concentrating initially on things like schools and universities in the UK, and that's been growing very successfully because on the campus you've generally got a pressing need to remove cash and an ability to instruct the use of smart card systems. So that makes it much more efficient for us in the early stages. I thought there's quite a big investment involved. We've just started to launch now the equivalent of an Oyster service for the wider transport community outside of London. And we will be launching a simple pay-as-you-go smart card service in Wales and in Scotland and in the southwest of England during the course of this year, and those plans are very well advanced. And we hope that from there we'll then start to extend more into regular retail networks as well.
Okay, and as I was reading up on the notes that I had for you as well, you're introducing it into schools, and it'd be a great way of giving your children the school dinner money, in effect, you know, to put onto that kind of card, because you can monitor to make sure it's getting spent in the right places.
Well, that's exactly the objective, and so we've got about 100,000 parents now who are regularly using our system to put typically £10 a week or thereabouts onto their children's cards. And the beauty of the system is that we were able to do certain integrations depending on the till systems at the school. We can actually even feed back to the parent what was actually purchased. So not only do they know that their child bought a school meal at a certain time of the day, but they can actually see what they bought. Now, they can't, of course, prove that they ate it, but we're starting to get to an interesting next level. And, parents seem to really like it, and it's very convenient. So, they can just top up money, in the evening or something like that, and know that their child will have that money allocated for dinner for the week.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds fantastic. Okay, well, listen, thank you for coming on and telling us all about it. I wish you continued success with it. Just give the website one final plug.
Yes, thank you. It's www.squidcard.com, and you'll see lots of the very interesting things that we're starting to do with our platform.
Okay, well, Adam, thank you very much for coming on this morning. Adam Smith, Chief Executive and Co-Founder of Squidcard. Thanks a lot, Adam.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.